Elon Musk has recently objected to Bitcoin on the basis of, and maybe this is this a flaw? Bitcoin becomes more and more expensive to produce as we proceed through time. And the consequence of that is that we do, in fact, use up more energy, or at least that's in one form, which is computational energy. Maybe we gain that back and, efficiencies within the market itself. You could argue that. But what do you think about Musk's recent decision with regard to Bitcoin?
I would love to jump in on that because I have written about that extensively. And I think what you said is exactly right, that Bitcoin is a map of value, so to speak. And what's so interesting about Bitcoin is that Bitcoin is both the map and the territory. And as I've said before, in the informational realm, we cannot link, usually, we cannot link the map to the territory. You cannot do it. Like if you have something in the real world, writing something down about it, you will always have to trust the person that wrote it down. And what's so ingenious in the world of Bitcoin is Bitcoin uses the only thing you can do with information, which is to transform it, to anchor it to the real world. So this is what proof of work does. That's what the energy expenditure is for. And the energy is used for various things. So it's used to secure the system. It's used to distribute new coins. It's used to make sure that the history becomes incorruptible. So it also secures the past. So it does a couple of things. It also makes sure, it even decentralizes time itself, which sounds kind of weird, but it's very hard to keep a decentralized system synchronous because of relativity and other effects. So if you wouldn't have something like physical proof of work, you would need to trust a central authority in terms of time, because the order of things, like the order of transactions, needs an absolute order of time. And all these things combined are solved by the proof of work system that Satoshi Nakamoto introduced. And so the energy expenditure, the basic question becomes, once you realize that, the basic question becomes, is it worth it? And society in general,
that's the question.
Society in general asks this question about all kinds of things, like, are cars worth it? Are smartphones worth it? Is the internet worth it? All these things, they take up a lot of energy. And Bitcoiners argue that Bitcoin is definitely worth it for this, right, for the sound money aspect alone.
Musk is determining by fiat that it isn't.
Well,
instead of letting the market decide,
it's very hard to decipher what Musk meant with his recent comments, because Tesla is still holding a lot of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. I think it's about $2 billion worth in Bitcoin, and they don't intend to sell any. And so, it's a political game to
so let me ask you this. If you guys are right, tell me if I'm leaping somewhere I shouldn't be here, but what should happen is that whatever energy is expended in the production of Bitcoin and the maintenance of the system should be more than recouped by the increased efficiency of every system that used Bitcoin as a transactional device. And so there'll be a net energy gain, not a net energy loss, if you calculated it across the entire system. And so it's a mistake just to look at the cost of generating Bitcoin in the absence of considering the efficiencies that Bitcoin would produce.
And the same is true for gold as well. It takes a lot of energy to extract gold from the ground. And historically, society in general answered this question in the affirmative. Yes, it's way worth it. It's worth to dig this up. And
right, but there were limits, right? Because once the ore becomes insufficiently rich, at some point you stop refining it. So there's a limit. But according to your logic, at least, the limit on the energy expenditure that Bitcoin produces should be produced by the market response to Bitcoin, not by some fiat judgment about whether or not it's ecologically sustainable, because that's just a guess. And the best indicator that we have for ecological stability is going to be cumulative free market decisions, even though those aren't necessarily very good. They're better than anything else we could possibly generate rationally.
And just to clarify one point, and then I'll let Robert dig into this. Bitcoin doesn't take energy because the production of Bitcoin takes energy. The production of Bitcoin, it's an emission schedule, so it's constant. We know when the last Bitcoin will be mined. It's going to be around in 2140, and it doesn't matter how much energy you expand. It won't go quicker. It won't go slower. So if you dig harder for it, it will be harder to find. And if you stop digging for it, it will get easier to find. So that's the genius invention of the difficulty adjustment. So there is no one-to-one link of Bitcoin production and energy expended. The the energy is used for different things, for its security, for example. And Robert, I think you want to say a few things.
Yeah, I'll try to dovetail and tie some things together. So the general tenet here is there is no value in money without sacrifice. There has to be an energy expenditure to secure the supply of money or the network of money. That's what ensures against its corruption, basically. Mm-hmm. And if we zoom out,
it wouldn't cost anything.
That's right. And someone would just arbitrarily suck value out of it by printing it, right? That's what the central bank is designed to do. So if we zoom out a little further, we could say the entire purpose of the world economy is to increase collective energy efficiency. That's why we are trading and specializing. Yep. That's what profits are, actually, right? That's an indication that we've
energy.
We've satisfied a want more efficiently. And that rewarded profits to the entrepreneur that then invites more competition, more production, et cetera, et cetera. So back to John's point, the entrepreneur, this is the individual element that courageously faces the chaos of nature, right? With his skin in the game, his own capital plans, et cetera, trying to convert it into good and useful order. The entrepreneur is the living hero myth. And that's what the free market honors. It honors the sacrifices that entrepreneurs go out into the world and make for us, whereas something like a bureaucracy is antithetical to that. So to get back to your point about why central banking, how did we allow it to happen? I boil it down to this, is that even the entrepreneur, he's pursuing something for nothing. He's trying to find a way to satisfy wants more cheaply, more efficiently, to enrich himself and to enrich others. That axis you talk about between chaos and order, good and evil, right? We're all pursuing something for nothing, but there's a point where you can cross that axis into the domain of evil, where it's intentionally harmful to others to benefit ourselves. I think that's what central banking has done, right? It's the entrepreneur wants something for nothing by figuring out how to provide a good or service, but so does the central bank. But it's crossed that divide to where it's actually economically harming others to give its shareholders, its private shareholders, a perpetual economic free lunch. It has no sacrifice in the money creation process. It pays a dividend to undisclosed shareholders. It's a parasite on the productive economy, effectively. And I would say that no one is better than their incentives, right? It's not like, how did we let this happen? It's like there was just an attack vector on gold. There's technological shortcomings of gold that allowed it to be corrupted. That's how we got the central bank built on top of gold. So I think by introducing Bitcoin, a money that's really hard to steal in terms of inflation or confiscation, it pushes us to be more hardworking as a society, because that is the only profitable strategy. We become entrepreneurial. Whereas if money is easy to steal, like it is under the central bank model via inflation, we slide towards kleptocracy. Right. And that's what you see. Even Elon, he's very close to the fiat currency.
Yeah, I like the we terminology a lot better, because it does, you make a case there. You make a case for a kind of technological inadequacy, is that as a species, we haven't been able to generate a sufficiently incorruptible language of value. And that has produced all sorts of negative consequences, some of which you're outlining. It's a problem that we all have.